Hey everybody. So if you're watching this video, that means that you have started the material in the week 1 module. I want to take a little bit of time to hit the highlights of the course syllabus. You can find the syllabus up under the Getting Started section. It's the last sub-tab in that Getting Started area. When you click on it, you'll see that it shows up there on the right-hand side of the screen. If you would like to download it and save it to your computer or to a flash drive or even print it, you can do that. There's a little icon up above where the syllabus appears on the right hand side, and you'll see it's a little cloud with an arrow pointing down. If you click on that, a little box will pop up where you can either save the file or open it and read it on the screen. You can save it that way or print it, whatever you'd like to do. You don't have to do any of those things. It's just there. That option is there if you would like to do that. But I am going to go through the syllabus and hit some of the important information, and then it's there for you to refer back to throughout the quarter if needed. The first thing that I want to point out there under the course description area, the next little section talks about the prerequisites and the total contact hours, and the out of class work and the credit hours. So it is a 4-hour class. So that means that the total number of contact hours for the whole quarter is 40 hours. That breaks down to 4 hours a week over 10 weeks. And then there's the 11th week where we take the final exam, but that 11th week does not count as part of the 40 contact hours. That means every week you come to class and you are expected to be there for the full 4 hours every week to get a total of 40 contact hours. That means the instructors are expected to provide you with learning material and activities and exercises and whatever for those 4 hours every week. The out of class work is 80 hours. That breaks down to 8 hours a week over 10 weeks time. I covered this in the video on how to navigate the course, but I want to reiterate it. I want to really make sure that you understand that it's 4 hours of in-class work every week and then 8 hours of out-of-class work every week. But it's up to you, since it's online, to figure out when you are going to devote time to the class. Do those 4 hours first. And it doesn't have to be 4 hours all at once, but do the material in the weekly module first. That is roughly 4 hours worth of items. Going, the daily journal, going through handouts, going through PowerPoints, watching video lessons. There might be a couple of other graded homework, graded items, part of the weekly module material. All of that is your 4 hours of classwork. Then on the homework tab, that's where your 8 hours of out of class work is found. And just like if you were taking a class on campus, the material that your instructor covers during those 4 hours of class help you do the homework that they assign. The skills and material and information that you're learning about in class prepares you to do the homework assignments that your instructor gives you. Same thing here. It's just online. The material I provide you with in each weekly module, PowerPoints, the handouts, the video lessons, the graded exercises, those all prepare you for the homework assignments that are listed in the homework tab that week. You don't have to do everything all at once, but I would try to make sure that you do the stuff in those 4 hours before you try to do the stuff in the 8 hours of homework, except for the discussions. The discussions you might be able to do, just depends on which discussion it is. But for the most part, try to do the 4 hours of module material and then move to the homework assignments. It is a lot of work, but that is what is required of us, not by ATA, but by our accrediting body. I try to be flexible. You'll see my late work policy a little later on in the syllabus, but that is what you need to be prepared for. And you really need to budget your time wisely. If you are able to, I would devote a specific day and time, or maybe a couple of days of the week that you have available, devote a little bit of time on this day and a little bit of time on another day to this class. In a perfect world, you would have a 4-hour chunk of time on any given day, like let's say on a Monday. You had a 4-hour chunk of time where you could sit down and go through that material in the weekly module, just like if you were going on campus to go to class. That might be something you want to think about. Is there a day and time where I can go to class online, cover the material in the weekly module, and then you figure out the rest of the week when you're going to, complete the assignments for that weekly module. That's just my advice. The course objectives come next on the syllabus, and what you really need to know is that it's a composition course. We are going to be writing. Not all of it is going to be formally graded, but there's a lot of writing. The informal writing that you do is the majority of the work for the course. It's not what is counted the most, but it's the most items. Those are the exercises and assignments that you'll do. I grade them on effort, you'll see that later, but they are all helping you get to the point where you can write the formal essays that you'll write during the quarter. But we're going to be working on introductions and thesis statements, body paragraphs, how to have a well-developed, focused, cohesive body paragraph with a good transitional topic sentence. We're going to work on concluding paragraphs. We are going to work on a little bit of grammar and mechanics. We're going to look at a couple of different types of formal essays. We're going to look at a little bit of APA format. We will not be doing a research paper in this class. That's what Comp 2 is for. But I do give a little overview of APA format. And then you'll have an in-class essay at the end of the quarter as well that kind of shows what you've learned throughout the quarter. But it's a course on writing essays. And it's not really about the content of the essay, it's about the organization of your thoughts and being clear and concise and effective with written communication. We use essays as the tool for that, but it's really those skills that we're working on. And even if you never write another essay ever in your life after you take this course, the idea is that you will still be able to write effectively, whether that's in an email or notes or a patient's chart or a memo or a business letter or a resume, whatever. You will be able to take the skills that you have learned in this class and apply them to all different types of writing, essays or not. That's our goal. So there is a textbook for the class. I'll show it to you right here, right? The College Writer. You will need this for the course. There are some, there's chapter readings for homework almost every week. A couple of the discussions actually require you to read a chapter in the textbook first before completing it. So you will be using the textbook throughout the quarter. If you scroll down to the third page, that's where we get into some very useful information, how the grades are broken down for the work throughout the quarter. So you've got discussion forums. There's one every week. They are worth a total of 10% of your overall grade. The exercises and assignments, those are worth a total of 30% of your overall grade. You have essays. There are 2 formal essays that you write throughout the quarter. Those are worth 40% total, so each one is worth 20% of your overall grade. And then you've got your final exam, which for this class is also an essay, but it's a timed in-class essay. So you take it like a quiz, like an exam. And that's worth 20%. So there are technically 3 formally graded essays that you will write this quarter. You'll write 2 of them during the quarter, and then the third one as your final exam. Combined, those 3 essays make up 60% of your overall grade. The homework assignments are 30%, and there are quite a few homework assignments because there's the graded exercises are included in there, so it's all under one category, but it's all 30% of your overall grade. And the discussion forums are worth 10% of your overall grade. So manage your time accordingly and prioritize these items accordingly. When we start working on those formal essays, the 2 essays that we do during the quarter, you really have to turn those in. You have to submit a rough draft and you have to submit the final draft. Don't let those slide. Don't think that turning in all of those homework assignments is going to equal the essays, because it doesn't. And I do that on purpose. You know, the essays is where you're showing what you've learned. It's just like the exams that you take in other classes. How do you show that you have learned the material in that class? You take an exam and your score reflects what you've learned. This is a writing course, though. It's a composition course. So I don't give exams, I give essays, because that's where you show what you've learned throughout the quarter. So that's why the essays are weighted so heavily for this course. Think of them like the exams. The homework assignments, they are important. If you fail to turn in the homework assignments, your grade will be significantly lower. But missing a few is not going to make or break you. And I do that on purpose because I know there's going to come a time this quarter where you have to make a decision. Do I do this assignment for my English class, or do I do this project for one of my nursing classes or whatever, you know, and you're going to choose the other class, and you should. So that's, you know, that's why there's a lot of homework assignments, but that's why they only equal 30% of your overall grade, is so that missing a couple of them is not going to hurt you. Missing a lot of them will lower your grade, you know, for sure. A couple here and there, not gonna be the end of the world. The distribution of out of class time, you'll see there how it's broken down. This is for your homework. So your discussion forums throughout the quarter, I'm averaging about 10 hours total. So that's about an hour for each one, because there's one each week. Your chapter readings, about 10 hours. You know, you're not getting quizzed and you're not taking exams over the material in the chapters. It's really just to help reinforce the material that we go over every week. So I don't want you, you know, sitting there spending hours reading each chapter and highlighting and underlining. I want you to just read it. Just read it and then you're done, right? The homework assignments, I'm guessing, are going to take about 25 hours total throughout the quarter, and the essays about 35 hours. That includes the rough draft, your revisions, your final draft, and it includes that final exam essay at the end. So about 35 hours, that equals 80 hours, you know. You need a 60% or higher to pass the class. So you know what the breakdown is of your out of class work, you know what you need to pass the class, and you know how much each category of graded items is worth. And you know that the essays are significantly heavier than the discussions and the assignments. But you also know that missing too many of those other items will lower your grade. You do want to find the balance, but be smart about how you prioritize your work for this class, right? Let's see. If you scroll on down, we start to get into the course outline. If you want to take a look at everything there, it is just an even more streamlined version of what you see in each weekly module when you read the overview and then click on the agenda. The information matches up exactly, but you can kind of look through this and see when we're going to start working on essays and when rough drafts are going to be due and when final drafts are going to be due. So that course outline is there if you would like to use it for planning purposes, but it literally matches up exactly with the agenda for every week in the weekly modules. But you can go through it if you'd like. After the course outline, we get into some of the policies for the course. The attendance policy for ATA is, you can't miss more than 20% of the contact hours, right? So it's a 40 contact hour class. So 20% of that is 8 hours. That's 2 weeks of class, right? Because each week is a 4-hour class. So if you are absent, if you get marked absent more than twice, you will be withdrawn from the course. So remembering those weekly deadlines and the attendance trigger is super important, because it's not quite as easy as just making sure you go to class every week. You have to remember to go in and do a graded item on your own every week to trigger that attendance. But if you follow the due dates for the discussion forum, you should be in good shape, because it says that the first post for every weekly discussion is Thursday by 11:59 p.m. If you do that, you're fine. Your attendance is triggered. You will be present for that week, and then it's just up to you to figure out when you do the rest of the homework for that weekly module. But just really try to stay on top of it, because again, once the quarter starts, just every week just starts running right into the next, and before you know it, you missed posting your attendance 3 times, maybe not in a row, but just 3 times throughout the quarter, and now you're withdrawn. So really try to stay on top of it, and just know that that's what we mean by that 20% mark. 20% of a 40-hour class is 8 hours. That breaks down to 2 weeks of class, not in a row, at any point. So you might miss week 2, and then you might miss again in week 4, and then something happens and you miss again in week 7. Now you're withdrawn from the course, and you only had a couple more weeks until it was over. So really try to stay on top of the attendance triggers so that you don't even have to worry about that 20% mark. Scrolling on down, let's see, on page 10, the top of that page talks about the academic integrity policy. This has to do with cheating. So in this class, because it's a composition course, more than likely cheating would come in the form of plagiarism, which means turning in work that's not your own. That might mean the whole thing is not your own. That might mean just a little section is not your own. So that means turning in the same exact work as a classmate. I know you guys often work together, and that's good, but try to make sure that you are still answering things as an individual, especially for a class like this, it should be pretty easy to still use your own words. Even if you guys discuss things together, use your own words to complete assignments. So that's one way that you could get in trouble with academic integrity, is if you're turning in the exact same work as somebody else. If you're taking things off the internet, whether it's a whole essay or just 2 sentences from a website. If you, first of all, taking the whole essay, that should be obvious, that that's not allowed, and you will get in some serious trouble for that. But even if you just take a sentence or 2 from a website or from some source, if you don't cite a source, if you don't put in parentheses the author's last name and the year that it was published, it's plagiarism. That's cheating. You're passing something off as yours that's not really yours. We don't cover research in this class. I do a little overview of APA format towards the end of the quarter, but that's really just for your benefit. It's not even because it's required. If you go back and look at those course objectives, I'm not required to teach anything about research or APA format, because that's what's covered in Comp 2. So I don't want you to do any research for this class. The essays and the assignments that I have designed for you require no research whatsoever. So hopefully that temptation is already removed from the equation. Not citing your sources the right way. You shouldn't be using sources, period, for anything in this class. If I see something that catches my eye, I might happen to Google it and see if it has come from another source. And if it has, and you have not provided any kind of citation for it, I will simply bring it to your attention and give you the opportunity to fix it. I don't punish students if they have failed to cite correctly. I give you the opportunity to fix it. And then if it's not fixed, then we move on to other consequences. If you have taken large chunks of information from other sources, a whole essay from another source, then we have big problems. But I still typically always give students a second chance. Other instructors might not be so nice. So you need to make sure that you're really doing your own work, and if you by chance borrow from another source, that you give credit to that source. And if you're ever in doubt, ask. ask. So just be aware that that can lead to some bad consequences. And even if it's not a horrible consequence, you're still having to redo it. So that's more time and energy you have to spend doing this assignment, when if you had just used your own words and your own ideas and your own thoughts to begin with, you'd already be finished. So if nothing else, do it for the sake of saving time and energy down the road. Let's see, going through page 11, talks about the Learning Assistance Center. Use Miss Sandy Rice and any of the other tutors that happen to be in the Learning Assistance Center this quarter. Use them to your advantage, because this class can get overwhelming, and if you are not particularly computer savvy, it can get very frustrating very quickly, and then you're going to get discouraged and you're going to let things fall to the wayside, and you're going to fall behind in the class. If you have any worries or any anxiety about the course, just how to find things, how to get to the assignments, how to complete an assignment, how to submit an assignment, any of the technical stuff, they can help you with that. I can too, but I'm not, we would have to arrange a time to meet up on campus, which I'm totally willing to do. But if you need help right away, talking about it over the phone might be more confusing to you. So for those technical issues and those questions with just navigating things, try the Learning Assistance Center. They will help you. They will help you with everything else too. If you're struggling with a particular assignment or one of the essays, they're there for you. I am too. I will talk to you over, by phone. We can try to arrange a time that works for both of us to meet on campus. I am totally down with that. But the Learning Assistance Center is there all the time, right? So use them to your advantage. They are super helpful, and they really want you to succeed. So between me and them, hopefully, if you need any help, you're going to find it. Okay. Let's see, moving down, let's see, page 13 is where my instructor policies begin. Don't really have as much to do with this online class. My instructor policies are definitely more in line with what I require from an on-class or an on-campus class, but it's still worth noting, the respect policy. The only time that we're ever really going to be interacting together is in the discussion forums, but that's still something to, be aware of, is to be respectful to each other. I don't think that's usually a problem, but still needs to be said. The attendance policy for my course, I don't have any additional attendance policy other than ATA's 20% benchmark. But it's a good idea to make sure that you are covering the material every week. It's a good amount of work. learning how to write essays the right way. Once you start to fall behind, it can be difficult to get out from under that. Not impossible, but if you can prevent it from happening in the first place, then that's the way to go. So if you are making sure that you are able to, do that 4 hours of in-class work and then the 8 hours of homework, then you should be fine. My late work policy, I always tell students, assume that there is no late work policy, that everything needs to be submitted on time every time. That's just to keep you from falling behind. Of course, I'm willing to accept late work. You'll see there that it says that I won't accept it 2 weeks after it's due. Even that, though, I'm willing to compromise on if you have kept me in the loop and we have been communicating about your situation and I know what's going on. If I just haven't heard from you, if I've tried reaching out to you and 2 weeks have gone by and nothing, I'm not going to be as likely to be flexible with those dates unless something crazy has happened. But the moral of the story is if you are communicating with me, then I'm going to know what's going on. I'm going to be able to note that in your profile on Compass in the portal so that other instructors are aware. So if they go in and they look at your grade or they look and they're like, oh, wow, she hasn't submitted anything for 3 weeks. What's going on there? They can go and look and I'll have noted, she has, she's going through an illness right now, or, a kid had to have a sudden, an emergency surgery or something like that. Then I can make those notes and everybody's on the same page. We will have a game plan for when you will get work submitted, things like that. But for your own sake, if you can just get homework submitted on time every week, the easier it will be for you throughout the quarter. Having things pile up starts to wear on you. So if you're ever wondering, though, if I will accept an assignment late, always ask. I do say on here that I don't accept anything late past week 10, the start of week 10. And that's just because at that point we've got a second essay that's being turned in, the final exam essay is about to start, and there's just a lot of work that has to be done at the end of the quarter for you and me. So after week 10, no late work. So keep that in mind as we start progressing through the quarter. I'll remind you as we get closer as well. I've already talked about the academic integrity policy, semi-plagiarism policy. You can read through that, but I kind of already talked about it. The method for evaluating students, I've already kind of hit on this too. You've got your discussion forums. Remember, those are worth 10% of your overall grade. You have your exercises and assignments. Those are worth 30% of your overall grade. And then you have your essays and your final exam. So remember the essays and final exam, those 3 items, 2 essays and the final exam essay, 60% of your overall grade, right? You have to submit those. And it actually says in bold at the end there, please note students must submit both formal essays and rough drafts as well as the final exam in order to pass this class. You need to submit the rough drafts and final drafts of Essay 1 and Essay 2, and you have to submit the final exam essay to pass the class. And I'm not saying that's just how the numbers work out. I'm saying I will fail you if you do not turn in one or more of those items. So if you do nothing else in this class, do those essays. The rough drafts for Essay 1 and Essay 2, and the final drafts, and then the final exam essay. Okay? That is most of the important information from the course syllabus. If you have any questions, about any of the information that's provided in here, feel free to let me know. Remember, it's always there under the Getting Started tab if you ever want to refer back to it. Otherwise, you can go ahead and move on to the next item in the week 1 module.